The rain didn't just fall, it attacked her like the world was angry she still had hope. 12-year-old Mia stood outside St. Alden's Elite Academy, her clothes soaked, her skin shivering. She clutched a threadbare backpack to her chest, guarding. It like treasure. It held all her dreams. Her socks were drenched, squishing inside worn-out shoes that had long lost their soles. The chill crawled through every fiber of her thin jacket, but Mia still smiled, because today was her math quiz, and she had studied by candlelight until 2 a.m. She hadn't eaten breakfast. She'd walked 5 miles in the storm with only half a sandwich in her pocket, meant for lunch. But none of that mattered to her. School was her second home, and knowledge was her escape. Inside, the rich kids wore polished boots and laughter like armor. They didn't see her as one of them. They barely saw her at all. But Mia walked in with her chin up, hoping today might be different. Principal Langford stood at the front steps, arms crossed, face cold. He didn't ask why she was late or if she was okay. He simply said, "You're no longer enrolled here." Mia blinked. The words didn't register. I studied for the quiz," she whispered, voice cracking from cold and confusion. The principal scoffed. "We don't have space for charity cases who can't pay fees on time." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the door closed behind him like a verdict. She stood there frozen, raindrops racing down her cheeks like tears she refused to show. Around her, the world blurred with noise, mockery, and silence. Inside her, something shattered, but she held it all in. She knelt to tie her shoelace, though it was already tied, just to buy herself a second to breathe, to not cry, to not collapse. But her body trembled, her fingers numb, and still, she whispered, "It's okay, Mia. You've survived worse." Behind the windows, a group of rich students stared. One boy laughed and filmed her with his phone, whispering, "There goes Mud Girl again." Another girl pointed and joked, "She probably came to beg for lunch." Mia didn't respond. She bent to pick up her pencil case that had fallen in the mud. As she wiped it with her sleeve, a soft sob escaped, but no one heard. Except someone did. Across the street, parked in a black luxury car, sat a man in a tailored suit. He watched Mia with sharp eyes, brows furrowed, heart thudding against memories. His name was Alexander Cole, the billionaire CEO who once slept on benches and begged for bread. He hadn't meant to stop outside the school. He was here for a board meeting, another $1 million deal. But when he saw Mia, he saw his past staring him in the face. Something in him clenched. It wasn't pity. It wasn't nostalgia. It was a quiet rage that a child like her still had to fight to exist in a world like this. He reached for his phone without breaking eye contact. "Prep the helicopter. We're landing at St. Alden's in 10, he said. His assistant panicked. "Sir, the board's waiting." But Alex cut the call because this wasn't just business anymore. This was a mission, a reckoning, a reminder of who he once was, and a promise that no one like Mia would ever be invisible again. Mia didn't know what revenge meant. She didn't hate the principal or the students who mocked her. She just wished they'd see her. Really. See her as someone trying her best. At night, she wrapped her little brother in the only warm blanket they had. She ate less so he could eat more, smiling as if she wasn't hungry. And when he cried, she told him stories about flying castles and magic pencils. Her innocence wasn't just in her age, it was in her soul. She believed that kindness still existed, even when the world didn't show it, and that someday, someone would come not to save her, but to believe in her. She wrote dreams on the back of torn receipts, little notes like, "Be a teacher," and "Buy a warm jacket for Joey," folded and tucked inside her pencil case, like a vision board for a better life. She didn't blame her mother for leaving, didn't cry when her father's job was lost and the lights were cut off. She just studied harder by candlelight, whispering, "One day it'll be better." The principal had called her a burden, But Mia still waved goodbye to him every morning, just in case he needed kindness. She believed people hurt others because they were hurting too. She picked dandelions from cracks in the sidewalk. She'd press them into her notebook, next to math problems and quotes like, "Keep going," because she believed beauty was hidden in broken places. The landlord once yelled at her father in front of the neighbors. Mia quietly pulled her brother inside, shielding his ears, saying, "Let's play a game." That night, she hugged her dad and said, "We'll be okay. I believe in you." Her clothes didn't match, her socks had holes. Her backpack was taped at the corner, but her homework was always done. Her handwriting was always neat, her heart always full. She smiled at strangers who never smiled back. She said thank you to bus drivers who barely noticed her, because she believed every good word had the power to change someone's day. At school, when someone dropped their books, Mia helped pick them up, even when they ignored her. Even when they walked away without saying thanks, because her mom once told her, "Kindness is your superpower." She never raised her voice, never asked for more than she needed, and never once thought of giving up, because she didn't know how to quit. Principal Warren sat in his office, sipping coffee like he always did. But that morning, something didn't feel right. The hallway was too quiet. No giggles, no footsteps. Just a strange echo of regret in his chest. He had told Mia to leave, coldly, publicly, with not a shred of mercy. He remembered the look in her eyes. Not anger, just quiet confusion, like she was asking, "Why am I not worth it?" He told himself it was protocol, rules, image, reputation. But now, staring at the empty desk where she once sat, it hit him. He had removed the most hopeful heart from his school. Mia was poor, yes. But she was light in the dark. She brought warmth to every group she joined, calm to every conflict. And now that warmth was gone, and the halls felt colder because of it. Her classmates were different too. The ones who once mocked her now seemed quieter, duller, lost. They hadn't just lost a student, they had lost their example. That afternoon, news broke. A helicopter landed on the field. Out stepped a billionaire, searching, not for a contract, not for fame, but for a girl named Mia, the one who once helped his lost daughter at a bus stop. The staff stood frozen as truth peeled away their pride. The girl they'd labeled nothing was now someone the world came looking for, and Principal Warren? He felt like the smallest man alive. The billionaire told them Mia had given his daughter her shoes, walked barefoot in winter, just to make sure she got home warm. She never mentioned her name, just whispered, "Be brave for someone else one day." That was the day Warren's mirror cracked. He saw his reflection, not as a leader, but a coward in a tie. He had failed not only Mia, but every silent kid watching from the back. He walked home that night instead of driving. Passing corners Mia likely walked, alleys she may have cried in, and with every step, the guilt grew louder than his pride. He stood in front of Mia's old house, clutching a note she once submitted late. It read, "Sorry for the delay. I was babysitting a sick neighbor. I'll try harder." He remembered laughing at it once. Now, it burned in his hands. The moral awakening wasn't a thunderclap. It was a slow unraveling. Each layer of his excuses peeled off like old paint, until all that remained was a man ashamed of who he became. Warren gathered the staff the next morning. No speech, just one sentence. "We failed her." And with that, the school changed. Not rules, but heart. They started a new fund in Mia's name, not as charity, but as honor. A scholarship for kids with dreams bigger than their shoes, and every time someone says her name, they do it with reverence. Warren later visited Mia. He stood outside, not sure if she'd even want to see him. But when the door opened and she smiled gently, he broke down. He apologized, not with grand words, but a trembling voice and watery eyes. Mia simply said, "I forgive you. Just promise you'll see the next kid better." That sentence rebuilt a man more than any paycheck ever did. That was the real transformation. Not hers, but his. Because sometimes the poorest girl teaches the richest lesson, and the one you push away is the one who shows you what humanity looks like. The days that followed Mia's expulsion felt like an unbearable weight on Principal Warren's chest. He couldn't shake the image of her face as she walked out, alone. Her head slightly bowed, yet not broken. And no matter how hard he tried to rationalize his decision, the emptiness in his heart never left. The school was quieter without Mia's energy, her gentle smile, her warm greetings to everyone she passed. She wasn't the most popular, but she had a quiet strength that brought people together. And now, every corner of the school echoed her absence, as if the very walls mourned her departure. Warren couldn't focus on anything. Papers piled up, meetings passed unnoticed. It wasn't just about Mia anymore. It was about what he had lost in his own soul. How had he let this happen? How had he, the supposed leader, allowed a child's future to slip through his fingers? One night, unable to sleep, he drove past her old house. He saw the lights still on, her mother sitting by the window, watching the street with a tired but hopeful look. It broke him in a way he hadn't expected, like a father realizing he had failed his child. The next day, he could no longer pretend. Mia wasn't just a student. She was a symbol of everything he had overlooked, and that realization hit hard. As he walked into the classroom where Mia once sat, the silence was deafening. The other students sat quietly, sensing the shift in the air, like a storm that had passed, leaving only stillness behind. Warren could feel their eyes on him, but it wasn't just guilt he saw in their expressions, it was the same shame he felt deep within himself. He made the decision then. No more pretending, no more excuses. He stood in front of them all and said what he had never said before. I made a mistake. I failed Mia, and I failed all of you. The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of his words sinking in. Then, a hand raised from the back. Someone he didn't expect. It was one of the students who had once mocked Mia, now speaking up with a voice trembling with honesty. We all failed her, sir. But we can make it right. The emotional moment hung in the air like a breath held too long. In that instant, Warren realized that it wasn't just him who needed redemption, it was all of them. And perhaps, just perhaps, this was the beginning of healing. For him, for the school, and for Mia. Later that evening, he sat at his desk, staring at the empty seat where Mia once sat. But instead of regret, something shifted inside him, a sense of responsibility, a renewed understanding. He wasn't just a principal anymore. He was a part of something much bigger, something worth fighting for. And when the next morning came, the staff had gathered, determined to right the wrongs of the past. They announced a scholarship fund in Mia's name, a way to make sure that no child, regardless of their background, would ever be treated the way she was. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Principal Warren's heart felt lighter, and as he walked to the staff meeting that day, he finally understood. It wasn't about just fixing the past. It was about shaping a future where kids like Mia could thrive without being overlooked. And in that moment, he knew the emotional impact of a single decision could change everything. Mia's mother, Evelyn, had always been the quiet backbone of their little family, never asking for much. Her sacrifices were made in silence, as though it were natural. To her, to give everything and expect nothing in return. While Mia struggled with the weight of her own burdens, Evelyn carried an invisible load, one of love and resilience that no one ever saw. The house they lived in was small, worn by time, but Evelyn made it a home. Each meal she cooked was a labor of love. Each worn-out pair of shoes she mended was an act of quiet devotion. She never complained, never showed weakness, and never once blamed the world for the difficulties they faced. When Mia was expelled, Evelyn had not shed a single tear. Her first instinct was to protect her daughter, to shield her from the harsh words of the world. But inside, the pain was tearing her apart, knowing that she couldn't shield Mia from everything, not from the cruel hands of fate that had been dealt to them both. In the darkness of the night, Evelyn would often stay up long after Mia had fallen asleep, making sure she wouldn't hear the weight of her mother's worries. She had learned to hold back her tears, hiding them behind a mask of strength, so Mia would never feel the heavy burden of her own pain. For every moment Mia felt her heart break, Evelyn's heart shattered a little more, but she would not let her daughter see it. One evening when Mia was alone, she found a letter hidden in the drawer, written by Evelyn, but never sent. It was a letter addressed to Principal Warren, begging him to reconsider his decision. It was the kind of letter filled with raw emotion, with a mother's plea for her daughter's future, but also with a silent understanding that there was little hope left. Evelyn had poured everything into Mia, hoping she could one day rise above the struggles they had faced. But as Mia read the words, she realized that her mother had never hoped for much, just enough for her daughter to have a better life, a life without the constant weight of financial hardship and societal judgment. Evelyn's silent sacrifice was a constant thread in Mia's life, a thread she had never fully understood until now. Mia's heart twisted with guilt as she realized how much her mother had given up, how many opportunities she had let slip by just so Mia could have the smallest chance at a better future. All the while, Evelyn had smiled through it all, her sacrifices cloaked in silence, as if it were all part of being a mother. But Mia now saw the truth. Her mother had given everything, and in return asked for nothing, not even recognition, not even a simple, "Thank you." It was in this moment that Mia made a vow to honor every sacrifice her mother had ever made. She would no longer stand by as the world swept her mother's sacrifices under the rug. Evelyn deserved more than the silent suffering she had endured for years. She deserved to be seen, to be heard, and to be loved in a way that no one else had done before. Mia knew that she had to stand up for her mother, but also for herself. She had always been taught to fight for what she believed in, but it wasn't just about fighting against the world anymore. It was about fighting for the love that had silently sustained her all her life. This fight would not be won by words, but by actions that spoke louder than any plea for help. In the days that followed, Mia took the first step toward paying her mother's silent sacrifice forward. With the knowledge that her mother had given so much for her, she made a decision that would not only change her life, but would honor the sacrifices that Evelyn had silently made for her. This was no longer just about getting revenge on a world that had wronged them. It was about creating a future where sacrifices like her mother's would no longer be invisible. And so, Mia, with her heart full of determination, began the journey that would not only change her destiny, but would give her mother the respect and recognition she deserved. Because some sacrifices, no matter how silent, are meant to be seen, and Mia was ready to make sure her mother's story would never go unheard again. The moment Mia left that meeting with Principal Warren, the weight of the world seemed to fall upon her shoulders. She had always tried to be strong, but this time, something inside her snapped. The words he'd thrown at her, the injustice, the humiliation, it was all too much. But there was a fire, igniting within her, and it burned with a resolve that she had never known before. She wouldn't let it end this way. She couldn't. Not for herself, and certainly not for her mother. Mia's heart raced as she replayed the events in her mind. She had done nothing wrong. She had always done her best, tried her hardest. But in the end, it didn't matter. It was always going to be about money, status, and the labels they placed on people like her. But the more she thought about it, the angrier she became. The anger wasn't just for herself. It was for Evelyn, who had silently borne the weight of the world, who had carried Mia's dreams like they were her own. She walked back home, not with a head hanging low, but with her shoulders square and her jaw set. As soon as she entered the house, she found her mother sitting at the kitchen table, looking up at her with that familiar, warm smile. But Mia could see it in her eyes. She knew. Evelyn always knew when something was wrong. She had never asked, always giving Mia the space to talk when she was ready. But this time, Mia couldn't hold back. "I'm not going to let them do this to me anymore, Mom," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Evelyn put down the knitting she had been working on and looked at her daughter, her eyes full of understanding. But there was no surprise. She knew Mia had been preparing for this moment, and as much as she wanted to protect her, Evelyn could see the storm brewing in her daughter's heart. This wasn't the same young girl who had been defeated by life's challenges anymore. This was someone who had found a new sense of purpose. "What are you going to do?" Evelyn asked quietly, her voice steady, as though trying to calm Mia's nerves, but also bracing herself for the answer. Mia's eyes met her mother's, and for the first time in years, she felt like the protector, the one who would shield her, mother, from the pain and hardship she had suffered for so long. "I'm going to fight, Mom," Mia said, her voice stronger now. "Not just for me, but for you, for everything you've given me without ever asking for anything in return. You've sacrificed enough, and I won't let them get away with it anymore." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She simply stood up, and with a quiet dignity, she walked over to her daughter and embraced her. Mia felt the weight of her mother's love, the silent strength that had always been there, even when she didn't realize it. In that moment, Evelyn understood. Mia wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for both of them. Mia was no longer the helpless girl who needed saving. She had become the person who would now be the protector. From that day on, Mia's every move was calculated, determined. She poured every ounce of her energy into proving to herself and the world that she was capable of more. She began researching everything she could about real estate, learning about the laws that could give her leverage, and about the opportunities that could help her break free from the cycle of poverty. She stayed up late into the night, reading articles, taking notes, and building a network of contacts who could help her navigate the world that had once seemed so out of reach. But she didn't just do this for herself. Every decision she made was guided by the thought of her mother. Every time she felt like giving up, she would think of Evelyn's quiet strength, her silent sacrifice, and she would push forward. One evening, after Mia had spent hours working through the night, Evelyn sat next to her, gently rubbing her back in quiet support. "I'm proud of you, Mia," Evelyn whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Mia looked up, her eyes burning, with the fire of someone who had finally found their purpose. "I'll make you proud, Mom," Mia promised, and for the first time in her life, Mia knew without a doubt that she would. In that moment, she realized something even more important than her drive to succeed. It was the love she had for her mother, the unbreakable bond. Between them, that gave her the strength to keep moving forward. No matter what came her way, Mia knew she would face it with determination, and she would do it for her mother, who had given her everything without ever asking for anything in return. The weight of Principal Warren's words felt like a crushing force on Mia's chest, suffocating her. She had been humiliated, singled out, and pushed to the brink of despair. Her mother had always told her that if she kept her head down and worked hard, good things would come. But all that seemed to matter now was money, status, and who had the power to make decisions for others. Mia knew she didn't belong in their world, but she didn't care. Not anymore. As she walked out of that principal's office, she could feel the anger rising inside her, rage at the injustice, at how the world constantly tried to crush people like her. But there was something else too, a determination, stronger than anything she had ever felt before. The storm inside her mind swirled. She couldn't let herself break down, not now. She had seen the look in her mother's eyes, the gentle sadness that often accompanied their tough conversations. She knew her mother carried the burden of their struggles without complaint, shouldering it silently. Mia couldn't stand to see that pain anymore. She couldn't bear the thought of her mother facing another day of hardship because of her inability to do anything about it. The walk home from school felt different this time. Every step she took felt heavier, like she was walking towards something monumental, something that could change everything. Her mother, Evelyn, had given her everything. But Mia realized now that she had been too focused on her own insecurities to truly understand the depth of her mother's sacrifice. Evelyn had been through more pain than anyone could imagine. She was the one who had quietly carried the family through thick and thin, even when Mia hadn't seen it. But now, as Mia looked toward the future, she saw a different path for herself, a path that wasn't defined by poverty, by humiliation, or by her inability to escape the cycle they had been stuck in. When Mia arrived home, she found her mother in the kitchen, just as she always was, cooking dinner with a quiet grace. The warm smell of something simmering on the stove hit Mia immediately, but it was the quiet warmth in her mother's eyes that struck her the hardest. Evelyn didn't need to ask what had happened. She could tell by the way Mia was standing there, with her shoulders tense and her fists clenched. But still, she didn't push. Instead, Evelyn simply nodded, silently inviting Mia to share when she was ready. Mia's voice broke the silence. "He expelled me, Mom. All because I didn't fit into their world. They don't care about who I am. They just see me as an outsider, someone to throw away." Her voice was shaky, and the tears she had been holding back finally began to fall. Evelyn reached for her, pulling her into a gentle embrace. "I know, darling. I know it hurts. But you are not what they say you are. You are so much more than that, and I believe in you." Mia's heart twisted with a mix of anger and love. How could her mother still believe in her after all the things she had faced? How could she have so much faith when Mia felt like she had nothing left to give? Evelyn's words were quiet but full of meaning. "You don't need their approval, Mia. What you need is to believe in yourself. You've always had that spark inside you, and I've seen it every single day. Don't let anyone take that away." Mia closed her eyes, absorbing her mother's words. This was the moment when something inside her clicked, when the protective instinct she had always felt for her mother transformed into something more powerful. She wasn't just going to sit back and let the world push them around. She wasn't going to be the victim anymore. Mia looked at her mother, her voice trembling but determined. "I won't let them win. I'm going to make sure this changes, Mom. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." The next morning, when Mia woke up, the anger was gone, but it had been replaced by a calm, unwavering determination. She had a plan now, and nothing was going to stop her. The world might have been built on unfairness, but Mia knew one thing for sure. She wasn't going to let it define her. She would fight for herself, and for her mother. She would make them proud. Mia spent the next several weeks studying everything she could about real estate. She spent hours at the library, reading books, taking notes, learning about the housing market, and how people like her could succeed. Every night, she sat at the small desk in her room, researching, emailing contacts, and finding ways to make her plan a reality. The walls around her felt like they were closing in, but she couldn't stop. Her mind kept pushing forward. If she could just get one break, one chance, she could change everything, and she had to. She couldn't let her mother sacrifice any more of her life for a future that felt so hopeless. One day, Mia was contacted by a local real estate investor who had heard about her interest in the field. It was a small opportunity, but Mia saw it as the break she needed. She didn't hesitate. She met the investor and pitched her ideas, her vision for what she could achieve with just a little help. To her surprise, the investor saw something in her. Something raw and real that reminded him of his own struggles when he started. "You remind me of myself when I was your age," he told her. "Determined, willing to fight for what you want, even when everything seems impossible. I'll help you. But you'll have to work for it, and it won't be easy." Mia didn't flinch. She had already prepared herself for the hard road ahead. Ready, she said, her voice full of confidence. That was the turning point. From there on, Mia's life changed. She threw herself into the work, investing all her energy into the projects, using every resource available to her, no matter how small it seemed. With each passing day, she felt herself becoming stronger, more capable, and the fire within her, the drive to prove herself, not just to the world but to her mother, grew even brighter. As weeks passed, Mia began to see the results of her hard work. She was slowly building a small portfolio, and with each deal she closed, her confidence grew. But the most rewarding part was knowing that her mother was proud of her. Every step she took, every success, was a tribute to the woman who had taught her to keep fighting, no matter the odds. In the end, Mia realized that her greatest strength wasn't just in her knowledge or her ambition. It was in the love and determination that drove her to protect the one person who had always been there for her, her mother. And that was what made her unstoppable. Mia was at the edge, teetering between giving up and pushing forward. The past few weeks had been grueling. Every step she took toward her goal seemed to be met with a new obstacle, a fresh setback that threatened to break her spirit. She spent countless hours working with investors, learning about real estate and networking. Yet no matter how hard she worked, the world seemed to conspire against her. There were moments when the weight of it all felt too heavy, when the fear of failure crept in, whispering that maybe she wasn't cut out for this after all. But then, in the darkest moments, when Mia was on the brink of losing hope, something happened. Something unexpected. One rainy afternoon, Mia sat in a small coffee shop, staring at her laptop screen. She had just received another rejection email from a potential investor. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen. She wanted to reply, to push back, to fight for a chance, but the words wouldn't come. All she could think about was how far she had come, only to be left with nothing. The dream felt so far out of reach. Her phone buzzed on the table, breaking. Her train of thought. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" Mia answered, her voice shaky. "Is this Mia Miller?" the voice on the other end asked. It was a deep, steady voice, calm but with a certain sense of urgency. "Yes, this is Mia," she replied, unsure of who was calling. "I'm Robert Hughes. I've heard a lot about you." The name sounded familiar, but Mia couldn't quite place it. "I'm one of the investors you reached out to about that old property on Cherry Street." Mia's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Had someone finally noticed her persistence? "Mr. Hughes, Mia began, but Robert cut her off. "Listen, Mia," he said, "I've been following your progress. I know you've been working hard, learning everything you can, trying to make your way in a world that doesn't always welcome people like you. I've seen your passion, your determination, and I think you have something special." Mia's pulse quickened. Could this be the break she had been waiting for? "I've been hesitant to get involved," Robert continued. "But I've decided to take a risk. I'm willing to partner with you on that property. I believe in what you're doing, but you need to act fast. The deadline for that auction is in 2 days." Mia's mind raced. This was it. The opportunity she had been working for, the chance to prove to herself and everyone around her that she wasn't just some girl with a dream. She was a force to be reckoned with. "I won't let you down," Mia said, her voice steady with newfound confidence. But the road to securing this deal was far from easy. Over the next 48 hours, Mia faced a whirlwind of challenges. She had to gather every penny she could, reaching out to friends, family, and even taking on small, last-minute gigs to raise the remaining funds she needed. Every time she thought she was closer to the goal, something else popped up. A missed email, a phone call that led to dead ends, a problem that seemed impossible to solve. She didn't sleep for 2 days straight, working feverishly, barely stopping to eat. But despite the exhaustion, Mia's spirit remained unbroken. The drive inside her, her desire to prove herself, burned brighter than ever before. The night before the auction, Mia sat in front of her laptop staring at the countdown ticking away in the corner of the screen. She had done everything she could, but doubt began to creep in. What if she failed? What if she couldn't raise the rest of the money? Her fingers trembled as she prepared for the final bid. Her mind flashed back to the words Principal Warren had said to her all those weeks ago. "You'll never amount to anything, Mia. You don't belong in this world." Her breath hitched. She wasn't going to let those words define her. She wasn't going to let him win. With steely determination, she wiped away the tears that had been welling up in her eyes. She had made it this far. She had fought for everything she had, and no matter what happened, she wasn't going to give up now. The next morning, Mia stood in front of her laptop as the auction began. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, the tension mounting with every passing second. She wasn't sure how much longer she could take it. Every bid that came in felt like a threat to her dream. But then, something incredible happened. Just as the auction was about to close, Mia found herself staring at the winning bid. It was her. She had done it. Her dream was becoming a reality. The room seemed to spin as the realization hit her. She had won. Against all odds, she had secured the property. Her hands were shaking, but there was no time to dwell on the victory. Her phone buzzed again. It was Robert Hughes. "You did it, Mia," he said. "I told you I believed in you. Now let's build something great." Mia leaned back in her chair, staring at the screen in disbelief. It was all happening so fast, but in that moment, she realized something profound. She had been tested, over and over, and each time she had come through stronger. The challenges, the doubts, the fear, none of it mattered anymore. She had proven to herself and to the world that she could overcome anything. Mia's journey wasn't just about securing a property or making money. It was about proving that no matter where you come from, no matter how many times you're told you can't succeed, you have the power to change your destiny. And in that moment, Mia knew that this was just the beginning of something much bigger than she could ever have imagined. As the days passed after Mia's victory, the weight of her achievement began to settle in. The adrenaline that had fueled her for so long was slowly fading, but it was replaced with a profound sense of accomplishment. She had done it. She had turned the tables on her life, against the odds, against the doubts that others had placed on her. The abandoned house was now hers, and she was determined to transform it into something spectacular. But as she looked out over the property for the first time as its rightful owner, something stirred within her, a feeling of clarity. Mia had spent so long fighting to prove herself to others that she realized now, for the first time, that the real victory was not in what others thought of her, but in what she had learned about herself. Her heart swelled with a sense of pride, but it was different from the pride she had once thought she would feel after success. This was a deeper pride. A pride in her resilience, her ability to stay true to herself, and her unyielding spirit in the face of everything that had tried to bring her down. It had all started with a bet, her last $700. But Mia's journey wasn't about that amount of money. It was about something much greater. It was about the choices she had made, about refusing to give in to fear, about trusting herself when no one else would. She sat down on the weathered porch of the house, letting the wind gently tousle her hair. The sun was setting on the horizon, casting a warm golden light over the place that had been her dream for so long. It wasn't just an old house anymore. It was a symbol of everything she had overcome, a monument to the power of belief. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was Robert Hughes. "Hello?" she answered. "Mia, I just wanted to check in." Robert's voice came through, steady and reassuring. "I'm impressed with the way you've handled everything so far. You've built something here. Something that's going to inspire a lot of people." Mia smiled, her heart warming. "I'm just getting started." "I know, and I think you've got something special here. But remember, it's not just about the house or the money. It's about what you're going to do with this platform. You've built. You have the power to make a real difference." Mia felt a wave of emotion. I'm not sure where this is all going, Robert, she admitted, her voice soft. But I know that I want to help others. I want to show them that they can turn their lives around, no matter where they start. That's the spirit, Mia, he said warmly. You've got a bright future ahead of you, and I'm here for the ride. She ended the call and sat in silence for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. It wasn't just about wealth or success, it was about purpose. The next few weeks were filled with endless meetings, renovations, and hard work. But Mia no longer felt burdened by the challenges. She was learning, growing, and pushing forward, with a new sense of clarity. Every setback, every hurdle, became an opportunity for growth. She reached out to other women who had faced similar struggles, those who had been told they were too poor, too inexperienced, too naive to ever succeed. She shared her story, her lessons learned, and her vision for the future. Slowly, her influence began to spread. People started to notice her. The same people who had once doubted her now saw her as a beacon of hope. She wasn't just a successful businesswoman. She was a symbol of determination and transformation. And then one day, as she walked through the neighborhood surrounding her new business, something incredible happened. A young woman, no older than Mia had been when she first took the leap, approached her. Are you Mia Miller? The woman asked hesitantly, almost as if she couldn't believe it was really her. Yes, I am, Mia replied, her voice warm and inviting. I just wanted to say, your story inspired me, the woman said, her voice trembling with emotion. I've been stuck in a dead-end job, but after hearing about what you did, I decided to take a chance. I'm starting my own business now. Mia's heart swelled with pride. She reached out, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. I'm so proud of you, she said, her voice filled with genuine emotion. You can do it. Just keep believing in yourself. As the woman walked away, Mia felt a tear slip down her cheek. She wasn't just a businesswoman anymore. She had become a mentor, a source of inspiration, and a symbol of the power of belief. In that moment, Mia realized that her journey wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who had ever felt overlooked, undervalued, or forgotten. It was about showing them that they, too, could turn their lives around. As she stood there, watching the sunset over the property she had transformed, Mia knew one thing for sure. She had found her purpose. And with that, she stepped forward into her future, not just as a CEO, but as a guide, a leader, and a living testament to the power of never giving up. The best was